Hello and welcome to Frank's School, 106th day this year. Class vocabulary is what I'm going to do today. We have 6 words so far. We'll get 3 more. I just can't leave this subject alone. Criminalization of saving seeds. That's one of the issues that is being tossed around, that idea that a farmer, if he saves his seeds from one year and plants them the next year, that becomes a crime. I don't know how that's going to come out, but I find it fascinating. But enough on that. All right, class vocabulary, and I want to get. We've got 6 words: catechist, parapet, bolster, tawdry, ebullient, and that is spelled right. Sallow. All right, who's got a word? And let's see, Jade over there. Jade says, "I got a word, and it's ruptured." Well, I write it and say, "Did I spell that right?" And she looks, "Yeah, that's spelled right. Ruptured." I ask, does anybody know which syllable is stressed? And they might hear it, might not. It's ruptured. Otherwise it would be ruptured. Ruptured. And Jade, what's the context? The impact ruptured your spleen. And I put ellipsis there. And I also put quotes. Because really, the quotes should be there. But I sometimes... Yeah, I didn't want to take too long with this, and so I didn't always insist on that. But really, they should be there. And in this case, I'm quoting, Jade was quoting a source, but I decided what I would do I'd just use Jade as my source. In the last year I taught, 2011, she offered the word. So I would say to her, "Where did you get that word?" And she should have been able to tell me. Then I'd say, what part of speech is it? The impact ruptured your spleen. And it's got an ED on the end of it. That's kind of an indicator. And hopefully kids would say, well, this is a verb. You could say, today I rupture, yesterday I ruptured, I have ruptured. But if you, I don't know, they might get that wrong, but they shouldn't. Anybody know what it means? A student might know this. Broke apart. Now, when Jade looked it up in the dictionary, or now people use the online dictionary, which is good because it's quick and you hear the word pronounced. But one of the things that develops from that is kids have, it's shocked me, but kids sometimes can't use the dictionary where they have to look something up in alphabetical order. I was amazed to find that was true. It's quick. But anyway, a dictionary is going to say break apart, but since the context is in the past tense, for what's called parallelism's sake, parallelism, I make the definition match the context, so they're parallel. This is past, broke apart, tore apart. All right, anybody want to take a guess at the etymology of it? And, oh boy. I'm pretty sure I remember. I don't want to take the time to go look. Different guesses, and I would guess Latin, and I'm quite confident that's what it was. Thanks, Jade. Who else has got a word? Well, Beth. I'll call on Beth. Now this is what? Look at that. This is almost 20 years, 22 years earlier. I was still doing the same thing. You see, I've got these copies of notes. They left their notes behind, or let me copy them. Beth has the word curio. Curio. Thanks, Beth. I write it. Spelled right? Yeah, curio. Can anyone hear what's stressed? Cure. The first syllable. Curio. What's the context? That old curio dealer, says Beth. I would say, where did you see that? And in her notes, no. At that time, I was not yet making kids document the source of the words. I need to tell you that story about when I decided I would start to do that. But I was not doing it yet. Anybody know what curio, all right, the part of speech, that old curio dealer. Now, this looks like an adjective. So I would say there's 2 possible answers here. Anybody want to say both? Somebody say, well, it's an adjective. What kind of a dealer? But if somebody said it was a noun, they would be right too. What I would do in a case like that is I'd say it's a noun acting like an adjective. That's what I would write on there. And I don't know what Beth would have said. Probably noun. because she looked it up. A very good student. Anybody know what a curio is? And it turns out it's an object considered rare or unusual, a curio. And the etymology of it, I looked that up, and I just realized I'm not going to take the time. The etymology of it, when I looked it up, I'd let kids guess. Looks a little bit like it might be Italian or Spanish, you know, ending with an O like that. But anyway, it said it comes from an abbreviation of curiosity. So, and that's all it said. So what language does it come from? Well, the dictionary is set up so that you're expected to then go look at curiosity and find out where that came from. And you might even have, I think it was in 1851 that appeared first in writing. And curiosity, you might even have to look up curious before you finally get the etymology, and it comes from the Latin word to care, cura, I think it was. I didn't make the kids give the etymon, that's what that's called, the old form of the word, and what that etymon meant. But I invited them to, if they got curious about it, to be ready to tell the class, well, it comes from the Latin word which meant whatever. Okay, so we've got that, we've got the definition. Thank you, Beth. I was always made it a point to thank students for their words. Anybody else have a word? Well, there's Britta Fritz, another student I had. I probably in that same class, of also a very good student, back in 1989, and she has the word plums. Plums. I'd write it up there. Spelled right? Yep, plums. What's the context? He plumbs the depths. Look at that. You don't see that combination often in English. Depths. Depths. And that's just the way I would spell that word in our talk writing. Depths. Yeah, I would spell it. Depths. Oops. Depths. Yep, that's just how it sounds. He plumbs the depths. Okay, where did you get the word? And Britta would have been ready if I asked them to at that time. I'm not sure. There's only one syllable, so it's stressed. What part of speech is it? Can anybody say? And it looks like he does this. It's got an inflection on the end of it. He does it two sentences. It looks like a verb. And I say, yeah. Well, I'd go back and I'd check. And I'd say, well, Britta, what part of speech is it? Because it was part of their job to be ready to give all this information about the word. They were the word's sponsors. He plumbs the depths. Anybody, I'd say, Britta, where did you come across the word, if I made them do that? Anybody know what it means? They might. And with the definition that Britta gives, and we adjust it until everyone understands, penetrates to the bottom. Okay. Now, and the etymology. Now, back at that time, I don't think I made the kids give the etymology. I can't remember if I did that at first. But anyway, I forgot to look it up. I was in the middle of looking it up in my good old 9th new collegiate dictionary, and some company came, so I forgot. I think it's Latin. I think it is Latin. And I will check on it, and by tomorrow, if that's wrong, I'll tell you that I was wrong in that guess. All right, I would thank Britta for the word. Now, can someone put ruptured in a sentence? The balloon ruptured. Fine, good. Somebody else? The gas line ruptured. Good. And they don't always give right sentences. Sometimes they don't have it yet, and I have to adjust it to say, no, that's how about curio in a sentence? I bought a curio. Okay, I always say, is there enough there that I believe you know what the word means? Don't tell me what it means. If a student would say, a curio is an object considered rare or unusual, I'd say, no, I don't want a definition. I want you to use the word. He paid too much for the curio. Good. And I'd get 3 maybe. How about plums? He plums the pond. Or the anchor plumbs the sea. Yeah, a plumb bob falls. Somebody might know that. Anyway, good. Now, how about 2 in one sentence? Hands come up then, as I said before, because this isn't so much work, this is more play. The curio dealer had a ruptured spleen. Okay, I would accept that. Now you're just using the context. It's okay if you want. Anybody else? The curio I bought was very valuable, but then it ruptured and was useless. Good, real good. How about plums and ruptured? As he plumbed, and I always let them change the endings on the words, the inflections. As he plumbed the pond, he ruptured his spleen. Good. How about, and I would get 2 or 3. And then how about all 3? And sometimes kids would jump right away. They would want to do that. They couldn't wait to get it because they had one. They didn't want to lose it. All 3 in one sentence. And somebody would raise their hand. Maybe Jay gets back into it and says, the curio dealer ruptured his spleen as he tried to plumb the depth of the pond. Good. And I would take 2 or 3 more, and then we'd be done. All right, that's class vocabulary for today. We now have 9 words. Tomorrow we'll get 3 more. We'll have 12, and then we'll have enough for a quiz. See you tomorrow.